So I just want to really quickly go over the concept of microbubbles, because these are the class of agents that we use to opacify the heart, with either a bubble study or a Dfinity study. So a microbubble is a bubble, essentially, that's under 100 microns. It's very small. Just to give you a frame of reference, a red blood cell is about 6 to 8 microns. Saline solution, which is the bubbles that you use for your bubble study, is 16 microns. And a newer contrast agents, Dfinity and Optison, runs about 1 to 5 roughly microns. So in terms of the two LV opacifying agents that we use, Optison, which we don't use as much, is a little bit bigger, runs about 4.7 microns, and Dfinity is 1.5 microns, so this is the one that we use the most. And for you fellows, just remember that both Optison and Dfinity has a gaseous interior with the PFC, which in this case is perfluoropropane, and the shell is different. For Optison is albumin, and for Dfinity is a phospholipid. So both are indicated for LV opacification. We use Dfinity more just because of its ease of use, and honestly, it opacifies the LV just a little bit better. This is an example of a bubble study, where the bubble is traversing from the RV here to the RA, opacifying the RA right here, and you don't really see any going into the LA, so this indicates there's no shunting. If you see some late traversing of agitated saline from the the RA to the LA after about 5 beats, this is consistent with a pulmonary AVM. And to just talk about what the composition of a saline bubble is versus a Dfinity. A saline bubble is basically a water bubble where the inside of it is the air that we breathe, the atmospheric air. The shell of the water bubble, the agitated saline, is pretty unstable and it's pretty brittle, so that's why it breaks pretty easily in the pulmonary circulation. This is very different from a microbubble. I always think about a microbubble as one of those exercise balls that maybe some of you sit on when you're working at your desk. The shell is actually pretty bouncy and very it's very sturdy. The shell is actually a phospholipid shell like you would see in a micelle or something like that, and inside the gas is a PFC gas. It's not atmospheric, so the shell is stable, the gas stays inside. So in the small size, then the stability of the bubbles allows it to traverse through the pulmonary circulation and into the left ventricle. So whereas you cannot opacify the left ventricle with saline solution, you can do so with microbubbles such as Dfinity. There is a thrombus there, which is one of the indications for using Dfinity. You see that the Dfinity contrast shows up much brighter, and just so you guys, especially the techs and the fellows, know that when we do Dfinity imaging, it is really important to decrease the mechanical index to a very low index. In this case, it's about 0.3, which allows you to get those nice harmonic wavelengths in addition to the fundamental wavelength, but also not so high that you're breaking the bubbles. And just some technical issues, because I know for the residents and the fellows, both of you guys push Dfinity. The technical point is to push the Dfinity relatively slowly so it distributes evenly across the LV. If you push it fast, like I did when I was a fellow, not a big deal. It'll just take a little bit long to opacify the entire ventricle. So this is a very nice study, clearly showing you an LV thrombus in the distal inferior wall.